What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. No intro today. Okay, we're just going to jump right into this because we are going to be reacting to the Super Bowl trailer of the new Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day. Okay, so I reacted initially to what they're calling a teaser, but it was a 2-minute trailer that came out during the holidays, and I made a video about that. I'll put a link in the description. But today we're going to be reacting to the trailer they showed at the Super Bowl. All right, and it's got some new footage, and I've got some thoughts, some good stuff here to break down from this trailer and what I think is some of the plot points, you know, in this movie. So if you don't, not that I'm right, I'm just speculating, but you know, we'll see. And I also have a clip of Steven Spielberg talking about the movie that we're going to be playing as well. And this video is actually in 2 parts. So the first part is just going to be all about Disclosure Day. But the second part of the video, if you feel like staying for it, okay, it has nothing to do with the Disclosure Day trailer at all. But it does have to do with disclosure in general. And it's basically me responding to a comment that was left on Twitter from a video that I posted by someone named Fred Baker, who is a part of Skywatcher, and I wanted to respond, you know, in the proper way because I respect the guy a lot, and I wanted to give him a proper response. And really, it just brought up a lot of other things that I think everyone should be kind of aware of. All right. So anyway, let's jump into this Disclosure Day trailer, and here's my reaction.
We're interrupting our coverage. There has been a threat to publicly release government material long shrouded in secrecy.
Are they people?
No.
Do you think there could be others?
People have a right to know the truth.
What are you gonna do?
Okay, we're going to talk about that
the
part.
Whole world, all at once.
If you do this, there's no undoing it.
There will be no other day like tomorrow.
Oh, let's go. Look at that UFO, y'all. Some alien noises there. June 12th, baby. June 12th. All right, Vetters, please hit that like button because that really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's talk about that trailer, right? I mean, that looks sick. First of all, the shot of the UFO, boom, right? Coming through the clouds, very much like Independence Day. But I will say, just my first thought is like, how would it be displacing the clouds? Just because of the way it's always speculated how UFOs move, right? And if you remember from Nope, the cloud was the UFO, which is interesting, or it was behind it or something, you know, whatever. It looked like a cloud. Anyway, I don't know. I just find that interesting. So it makes me think that the UFO is crashing, actually. It's sort of lost all its power and it's coming. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. Again, this is all speculation. But before I forget, there's one part in particular, right? Because everyone's trying to figure out what's going on in this movie. What does it mean? Clearly, there's a lot of symbolism. And I don't think this is just your straightforward alien invasion movie, right? It's clearly more about humanity, right? And revealing, quote, the truth to the world, right? As it's put in the trailer, right? You have that one guy who's like the whistleblower, right? Who's basically saying, I'm going to reveal the truth, you know, to everybody all at once or something along those lines. You know, so it's interesting, right? It's just about humanity's, you know, what would you do if you found out we're not alone, right? How would that affect you? And not just not alone in the universe, but not alone on this planet, which again is the bigger question to ask, because I don't think anyone thinks we're alone in the universe. I mean, there are people, but I think the majority of people think, yeah, we're not alone. But that's not the question to be asked. It's, are we alone on this planet, right? And that's where the debate comes in and the discussion and the crazy stories of I've been abducted and I've had this experience and I've had that experience and, you know, I saw this and, you know, whatever, right? I've been on board a spaceship. I flew a spaceship. But I think this movie involves a lot more than that. And you can see little teases of it in the trailer. Like, one, they're using Emily Blunt's character, right, as a news anchor to sort of, as a conduit, right, to sort of speak. You hear, definitely in the first trailer, you hear that, clicking sound that's going on when she's giving a broadcast, like they're speaking through her. And then you see people's eyes changing color. Then you see the one guy, have this little thing on his head. So I think consciousness plays a big part of this movie. And there's one scene in particular where the camera pans behind the back of the head of somebody, and you see one person, and then as it pans behind the head of the person, you see Emily Blunt's character, which is not the first person, right? So it sort of changes persons, right? What I think is happening is that people are taking over other people's consciousness, right? And that's sort of a reveal in the movie of, that's probably that guy's wife. That's my, speculation here. I have no idea. I'm just saying she probably went up to him and to, trying to convince him, hey, I'm your wife, right? And so they're sort of revealing that to you, with imagery, right? And a cool camera shot to show that's Emily Blunt inside of this woman, right? This other woman. So I think maybe consciousnesses are getting switched around. Maybe that's how the aliens come, right? They don't actually invade in the way you would think. They take over consciousness in people, right? And so there's humans, but their consciousness is aliens or something. I don't know. And maybe they got a hold of this technology. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things here, but I definitely think consciousness is a part of it. And I think that reveal is, Emily Blunt playing some other character, right? And it's revealed she's taken over the consciousness of this other woman. Maybe she perished in the movie and is still alive through her consciousness. I don't know. But that's what that shot makes me think. Otherwise, what is the point of that? Or Emily Blunt's there, but the wife's consciousness has come into Emily Blunt's character, which I think is more apropos, actually. That's what I'm saying is happening. So that's Emily Blunt with the consciousness of that dude's wife, right there, speaking. I don't know, right? Speculating here. There's a lot going on. But again, not your typical alien invasion movie. I am excited for it, but I will say there are some parts that are kind of like, I don't know, it seems very whimsical, but at the same time, it's Steven Spielberg. He always makes a great film. Let's be real. I don't know if there's a film of his that I haven't liked. And I think he's the greatest, American film director ever, period. And not just the films he's directed, but the influence he's had on Hollywood and other films that have come out. He's such a great storyteller. He knows how to use the camera in such a way as blocking, right? Like, he's amazing. Set design. I mean, he really thinks his films through. So, and him dealing with the UFO topic, clearly he's an OG. Close Encounters, right? He made that after Jaws, right? Like, hello. So this is clearly going to be an interesting take from him. You had Close Encounters, which was, him dealing with the topic one way. Then you got E.T. and, War of the Worlds. And he's clearly dealt with aliens in different ways, right? So how's he going to deal with it in this way? And he's clearly leaning on humanity and humanity's knowledge about it. So it's almost like it's less about the aliens and more about humans, which I can appreciate this approach. And I'm not sure this particular aspect has ever been shown like this, right? Maybe Arrival, but even then, Arrival had its own thing. And that clicking sound I've heard in different movies, Signs, even Arrival, right? Like there's some similarities, but again, I am definitely excited about this, and it definitely reflects kind of what's happening in the world today with disclosure talk and all of this stuff, right? So anyway, are the secrets going to be revealed, right? Do I think there's real secrets in there? I personally do not think that, but I think Steven is just trying to bring a topic that people are curious about. Whether or not you're into this all day, every day, like me, I'm a big nerd about this. So, but it's very interesting. And again, remember I said I want to show you this clip of Steven Spielberg talking about the movie and maybe the bigger questions he's trying to ask.
Been fascinated with things that cannot be explained.
I can't describe it.
This means something.
And I've made a lot of movies about things that cannot be explained, from sharks to saucers. When I was just a little kid, I remember developing a real curiosity about the sky at night and what's happening up there. And also not the possibility, but the guarantee that there is life off this planet.
It's not really the question, though,
People's
is it?
questions about what is not only going on in our skies, but what is going on in our worlds, in our realities, has reached a critical mass.
Interesting.
Of people's complete fascination with, are we alone or are we not alone?
Yeah.
And if someone knows we're not alone, why haven't we been told?
Damn right, Steven. Damn right. Love that UFO. Let's go, baby. June 12th. All right, better. So look, let me know down in the comments what you think of the trailer of this movie. Are you excited for it? It comes out June 12th of this year, so we're not that far away. I'm sure we'll get another trailer as we get closer, because it's still a little, murky as far as what exactly the plot is about. And there's also a point in the movie where people are wondering about the timeline. Is this current, or is this from, set 10 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago, because someone's with a flip phone? But when consciousness is involved, this and that, it makes me think like humans have been, aliens have been on Earth a long time and kind of taken over human bodies. And because there's one point where this whistleblower says like, I'm gonna not in this trailer, but the other trailer, that 7 billion people know the truth. Well, it's like, wait, there's more than 7 billion people on the planet, right? There's 8 billion. All right, we crossed that in 2022. So
It belongs to 7 billion people.
it makes me think, oh wait, are like 1 billion people, actually aliens on Earth, right? Like, that's interesting, right? So I don't know if it's a time jump as more as just, a reveal about aliens maybe in a way we haven't been shown, right? So, which is interesting, right? And of course, again, the symbolism with the different animals, the cardinal, this and that, right? So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below, and I can't wait to read them. All right, now let's get to the second part of this video. So again, this has nothing to do with Disclosure Day, but in a way it definitely has to do with disclosure. So for you UFO nerds like myself, let's get a little down and dirty here. Not down and dirty. I don't know why I said that. But look, I made this post right here, okay, from a clip that I'd shown in my video yesterday of AJ from the Y-Files on his new podcast called The Basement, which is amazing. Again, check it out. But there was a part of that that I really liked that he said in his podcast, and I put it on Twitter today, and people have had some interesting reactions to it. And here's the clip.
So before we get to your videos, let's just wrap up on disclosure.
Okay.
I tend to not trust anyone from intelligence, military intelligence, naval intelligence, Air Force intelligence, pre-approved from the Pentagon. These sound like spokespeople to me, not whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So basically the gist is just, hard to trust, government officials coming out talking about aliens, right? UFO whistleblowers in general, that's basically the gist. I'm sure it could be argued there's more. And someone made an interesting comment, Android Paranormal, shout out to him. He was like, that's jobist, meaning like you're judging him based on their job, right? Like, shouldn't they be given, just because someone's like a government official, a former government official, you can't trust them? I mean, you're already dismissing them before you've heard them out, right? All right, that's an interesting, argument for sure, and something to consider. But I think, there's more to it, right? As we'll get into here. But really the reason I'm kind of focusing on this is because Fred Baker, who again is a part of Skywatcher, but also much more than that. Okay, so he probably maybe doesn't even like being described that way. Like, dude, I'm way more than Skywatcher, right? Because he has a long career in the military and what he did post-military. And I want to talk about his response that he gave, because I think a lot of people feel the same way as he does, as, you know, his response. And let's take a look at that. It's unfortunate that it's come to this, although I completely sympathize with that view, as we're, the public, constantly seeing inconsistencies and contradictions amongst those coming out. Who's telling their truth and who is there to stir the pot? Cynicism will not help. And then he continued. To categorically dismiss a group because of where they come from won't help. Not saying you should believe everything. I believe people's stories, but with caution. I let my background, history, and gut feeling keep me grounded, but without feeling as though I know for a fact. And look, I can totally understand that perspective, okay? And I respect Fred a lot. And I wanted to respond appropriately because I don't type out long messages or comments or anything. And I wanted to give this a lot more nuance. And I actually went and listened to a 2-hour interview with Fred that I hadn't seen before, actually, called on a podcast called Iron Sights. And I got to get to know Fred a little bit more. I've DM'd with Fred, you know, I wouldn't say quite a bit, but we have DM'd each other and had, you know, comments back and forth. And again, I respect the guy a lot. And clearly I just know of him because of Skywatcher, but like I said, he's much more than that. He served in the military. I don't know the extent of his service. I know he was in special operations, which I'm not even sure if I'm using that term correctly. He would know. But I remember when he first came out with Skywatcher, I was like, damn, this guy is like, you know, John Wick. He had this like black suit on. He's got tattoos, slick back hair, you know, special operations. You're like, oh my God, I mean, you do not want to run into this guy in a dark alley. I mean, look, I can barely fight a cold. So, you know, there's some intimidation there. But at the same time, he's definitely this thoughtful, sort of sensitive guy, you know, at the same time. And I can appreciate that and respect that. And you can tell that he really thinks his thoughts through before he says something. And again, I can definitely appreciate that. But look, let me show you a couple clips from this interview before I truly respond to Fred's, you know, comment there on Twitter. Take a look at this one.
Fred Baker, Counting Coup Tactical, here on the Iron Sights podcast. Fred, welcome to the show, my dude.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm so stoked to have you. Like, there's been like this huge like anticipation of having this happen, and I'm being honest. Like, there's been a little bit of anxiety in making this thing happen for me, because to me, and I think to a lot of people, if I'm being honest, you're kind of like the man of mystery. You ever been described as that?
No. No. I had celebrity comparisons when I was growing up, and at the time it was Keanu Reeves, which is kind of like, at the time he was like the Vin Diesel thing was like, I don't know, whatever. Now it's like, all right, that's cool, but now I'm like the Chris Pontius, and it fucking sucks. Like, okay, now I want to go back to Keanu Reeves.
You want to be Keanu now?
Yeah, like
Keanu definitely has a more impressive career.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a real, like, in the real world, he's a real humble dude and shit. It's
for sure.
Cool. But no, mystery, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think so.
I mean, I think for me, like, the thing is when Fred shows up on, like, Instagram, right? This is how I know you. This is how I've gotten to know you. This is how I think a lot of people know you. And a lot of the questions that come up are always like, is this dude really the same way, like, in real life? But, you know, for me, it's like, this guy always has something very, like, whenever he says something, it's clear that he's been thinking about this for a long time, or at least that was my assumption. Like, he's got some thoughts in his head that he's trying to get out, and he's been kind of thinking about this. So when he comes out and he does it, it's very deliberate. But what I've learned, I think, this weekend is that those thoughts have always been there for you, and it's not something that's really hard for you. But as a quiet, like, I see you as kind of being the quiet guy, but when I've been around you this weekend, like, I don't see that. I just think it's like, when Fred's only going to say what he feels like needs to be said at that particular time. Am I accurate with that, or am I way off?
Yeah, I don't appreciate the third person perspective, but no, like we talked earlier that, like, I was always surrounded by older kids or my dad's comrades with being in the military and stuff, and I always looked up to that. I never really had a lot of friends that were on the same age group or grade or whatever. Being in as a freshman on varsity teams and stuff, I always had these older kids, which I appreciate now because I was able to learn a lot quicker. I learned really quick to just shut the fuck up and take in the room because I was surrounded by people that had 3 or 4 or 20 years more of experience than I did. And I knew really quickly that I didn't know shit. I didn't know shit about fuck. And just being quiet and taking in the room kind of fucking allowed me to better understand, my surroundings, the world, where I need to go.
So kind of interesting there that he's considered a mystery man, but it's also interesting that he's, got compared to Keanu Reeves, which I did not know that when I made my John Wick comment, when Skywatcher first came out. So that's kind of funny. And then he gets compared to Chris Pontius from Jackass. Okay, that's hilarious. But, both people I respect, to be honest. But I get his point. You don't want to be compared to this and then get compared to this. Right? I mean, clearly Fred is not Chris Pontius from Jackass. He's definitely more Keanu Reeves, in my opinion, in that sense. And... again, very thoughtful guy that thinks this stuff through and cares a lot about how he approaches life and what he does, right? I listened to this whole interview, and it's actually very fascinating. I'm going to put a link down below if you want to listen to the whole thing. But there's one part in particular, talking about sort of responding on social media, which I thought was apropos for this, right? And what he had to say was also very insightful and very interesting.
I wouldn't say that I'm not frustrated. I would say that specific types of criticism affect me. Like when an individual comes back with criticism on something or whatever, but it's outside the realm of what I was talking about. That upsets me.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's upset. That's not what I was saying. And I don't put that on the individual. I fucking
how could I phrase that differently?
What did I maybe I don't say that to the person, but I'm sitting here thinking what did I say that who? And that's probably not the right way because it's one guy out of 698 fucking likes or whatever, right. One guy. That still affects me. That's one fucking guy though. That's one guy that I didn't connect to. That he took the time, whatever that matters or not, whatever. But he took the time to write to you and say I don't agree. Here's why, and that affects me. When I started all this fucking thing out, my whole fucking premise was that little things fucking matter. I always tell this fucking story. I probably tell it in every fucking podcast, but had a good buddy of mine. We're at a wake. Buddy died. We're at the bar. Typical fucking thing. And commander came up to him, and small talk, whatever. How are the guys? Typical fucking commander bullshit. They don't care. They're so what do the guys really care about? And the dude was intoxicated, not drunk, but
just feeling loose.
Yeah, enough to know I don't give a shit that you're a fucking colonel right now. And he's you know what, sir? You guys always tell us not to care about the little things, and that's all we give a fuck about.
Wow.
You tell us look at the big picture, blah blah blah, but you could literally strap a nuke to us and tell us that we're jumping into North Korea, and all I'm gonna say is can I keep my beard? We got the mission. This is what we train to every fucking day. Every fucking day, this is what we do. We come in 6 o'clock in the morning, we leave 6 o'clock at night, and we fucking train all goddamn day to every fucking goddamn thing that we gotta do, which is everything. People talk about special operators aren't good shooters. Well, we gotta do fucking everything. Literally everything. Because one of you dumbasses are gonna go to Africa and think you're gonna save someone's fucking life, and you're gonna get rolled the fuck up, and we're gonna have to come out there and fucking save
rescue
your ass.
you, yeah.
So we gotta do everything. We got to know ladders. We got to know how to fly a plane. We got to know how to fucking drive a boat. We got to know how to fly UAVs. We got to know how to step a fucking airfield in the middle of fucking nowhere and know that a C-130 or a C-17 can fucking land there. We got to be able to put helicopters here. We got to be able to fucking fly this. It's fucking dumb. And you complain like, I'm a better shooter. Shut the fuck up. We got a lot of things to do.
You know, it's interesting to hear him say that. You know, my father was in the military. I mean, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska for a reason. You know, my grandfather fought in World War II. I got family members currently in the U.S. military serving. You know, have had family serve in the police department. I got a cousin who's a firefighter right now. So I get public service in this way of protecting the community, right? There's different levels to it. And I respect that. You have no idea. I respect it so much. I grew up in a household like that. And I get what he's saying, right? The little things. And again, he's just, you know, a lot of times when you meet people that you think, oh, these guys are just gun-toting, you know, meatheads. They're not. They're not. Some may be, I'm sure, of course. Some are. But there are, you know, depending on what kind of service you had and what you did, you learn a lot about yourself and life. And some people reflect upon this stuff, right? And you can tell Fred is wise beyond his years, for sure, right? And again, I respect how he approaches this topic, especially when it comes to UFOs, which I'm sure he probably never thought he'd be getting into. I don't know. But, you know, and when it comes to Skywatcher, he's the one guy I respect the most from Skywatcher, if I'm being honest. I respect him the absolute most. In fact, I don't know how much he even likes Skywatcher, and I don't want to speak for him, but I can just tell there's more to this guy. And he probably wants to say a lot more, but he can't. And he's all about the mission and protecting, you know, his buddies and doing the right thing and protecting America no matter what. I don't think that's a cause that ever goes away. So I respect him. Again, I respect his opinion. But when it comes to, you know, disclosure, which is what we're talking about, there's, you know, his comments are interesting to me. One, it's his opinion. He's absolutely allowed. It's freedom of speech, right? But I would just argue that I don't think it's a cynical approach of what AJ said, right? Because I said I agree with what AJ said. I don't think it's cynical, right? Me personally. One, I think AJ's just saying how he approaches it. So it's like, you approach it your way and I'll approach it my way, right? AJ was never criticizing anyone else and how they feel. He wasn't saying, if you believe those guys, you're an idiot or you're cynical or you're this or you're gullible, right? He's just talking about what he feels, because this is a personal journey. Everyone has to do this the way they want. And then I would argue, well, it doesn't help, you know, Fred made that comment, it doesn't help, you know. I'm not trying to help any cause, right? I'm not part of some big cause. I don't think AJ is either, right? That's kind of what the problem is. When things become, well, you need to do this for the bigger cause or the bigger game or the bigger, you know, the big picture, right? Just like that story he told, right? I'm concerned with the small things, just like Fred mentioned in his story, right? Not the big picture, right? It's because, you know, how can we quantify what helps and what doesn't, right? Like, and what is really cynical or not, right? I look at it this way. Imagine a burning house, and there's two paths to that burning house. On the left side, you have a sidewalk that goes, and it's on fire, and you got to go help out, right? On the left side, there's a pathway straight to the front door with a little mini picket fence at the front that you can clearly just hop over and get straight to the door to start helping that fire, right? Getting people out, whatever the job is you're going to do. The second path to the right is, you know, 3 locked doors, brick walls, you know, anything and everything in your way to before you can get to that house, right? So which path are you choosing to try to go help put out that fire or save people in that fire? That's how I look at it. I look at the right path as government disclosure, and I look at the left path as citizen disclosure, right? Because we've been told that the UFO secrets are essentially a burning house. You know, time's running out, right? This could change the world, right? So that's how I look at it, me personally. But I also didn't serve. I also don't come from the government like, Fred did, right? So I can understand his viewpoint. But that's basically the thing I would argue is I respect his opinion, but and I know he's not trying to control other people's opinions, but it's more like you just can't quantify what helps and what doesn't, right? And I don't think you can quantify what's really cynical or not, because it's hard to tell where people are coming from and why they're saying what they're saying, right? And when you say you don't really trust anyone who's former government or intelligence asset that's coming out to talk about their stories, it's because, well, we've seen time and time again that they bring no proof or evidence, just stories and just what I've been told, right? And half of them are counterintelligence agents, right? And there's always seems like there's some weird agenda. And then there's weird stuff that happens behind the scenes that most people don't get privy to. I personally do. Oh, that's weird, right? So why would I add that extra layer, that extra filter that I have to go through to try to, quote, get to the truth? It just becomes silly to me. It becomes a waste of time for me personally, but I think everyone should decide for themselves. If you want to believe those intelligence officials that come forward with stories, go for it. Go for it. I have no problem with what anybody wants to do or what disclosure they want to push for or what disclosure they want to go for, right? I'm more like the guy in the Disclosure Day trailer, right? Who's like, we're going to tell everyone to the world, right? Clearly, really whistleblowing, right? In that sense. But I think it's just a personal thing. I think it's completely personal. And I just don't worry about what other people think when it comes to disclosure or what they want or what okay, that's what you want. Go for it. Is it cynical? Is it not cynical? Is it hopeful? Does it help the cause? I don't know. I can't really judge that, me personally. Right? There's just too many variables or factors I'm unaware of. I feel very uninformed to say that. So I just talk about me. I think AJ was just talking about himself. And I think Fred was just talking about himself as well. But again, I just thought I owed Fred a more nuanced response than I could give him on Twitter with a few lines. And I guarantee you, he also would like of an ability to give a more nuanced response and say more, because I know he would have more to say. And I hope one day I can have a conversation with him in a more, I don't even care about public setting. Just, he is someone I respect. It would be great to have an open dialogue conversation, about this stuff, just even life. He seems like a great guy to just sit down and have a few beers with, and just talk about stuff. So I hope that can happen one day. Fred knows there's an open invitation to come on to the show here, but also just for us to chat as well. Again, I do respect him. He served, America for a long time. I was going to say this country, but I'm not in America anymore. I live in Spain. Hey, but I'm still an American at heart, baby. And I respect anyone that's served, right? Even though a lot of service members don't really like hearing that, like, hey, thank you for your service. I've been told, like, they don't really care if you say that, to be honest with you. Some are like, okay, let it go, right? But a lot of times, most of them have manners, right? So they're just like, thank you. But, between them, they're like, okay. It's kind of seems, not that you're pitying them, but like, I don't know, whatever. Getting off topic here. So again, let me know what you think down in the comments. Is there a right or wrong way to handle this or to go through this or whatever, right? Because people always say you got to be skeptical and open-minded, and it's about, yeah, but whatever you want, you do whatever you want. If you want to be one way, be one way. If you want to be another, be another. That's my suggestion. Do whatever you want. Think however you want. Approach this however you want. Only you know you and what you've been through and what you're capable of and what you can, deal with. It's that simple. And I don't think anyone should be forced to sort of say things that, quote, help the cause or help or again, I'm not really for that, me personally. But again, I definitely love hearing other people's opinions, and especially when they're contrary to mine. I think that's where I learn. I learn from other people that think differently than me, because believe it or not, even though I talk for a living right here on camera a lot, I listen a lot in real life. That's where you learn, right? What's the saying? God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? So I tend to listen a lot more, especially when I'm in a conversation with somebody, because it's how you sharpen a knife, right? With a little rough edge, right? So it's kind of like how you sharpen your thoughts and your beliefs and your systems. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, reassessing where you are at with things and having sort of a personal accountability and sort of reflecting upon yourself and where you're at. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I try to do that all the time, to be honest with you. And I'm constantly reflecting upon how I feel and what I'm going through, and, making sure I'm approaching this in the best way that fits me, right? That's the truth. So anyway, appreciate y'all so much. Links down below. We'll see you guys on the next one, Vedas. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hey, brother. So I don't have a question, but I do have so I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and there's a news article from NBC4, Columbus, Ohio, that says Ohioans have a 1.13% chance of being abducted by aliens. That's a study that was done recently. Like I said, man, I mean, that's wild. Disclosure is happening soon. I love everything you're doing. I would look into this article, though, because, I mean, it's slowly coming out, obviously. Anyways, like I said, NBC4 in Columbus, Ohio. Ohioans have a 1.13% chance of being abducted by aliens. I mean, this is a straight-up news article, dude. So, anyway, something to look at. I love your work. Thank you, brother. Take care. Bye.